tonight, a woman killed and a child seriously injured in a suspected attack. Police were called after reports of banging and shouting from a flat in Surrey.
Everyone had a bag, a first aid bag with them. Some had guns with them.
Also on the programme, more scrutiny for Sir Sadiq Khan over free tickets to Taylor Swift's Wembley gig. Plus,
this is the first time ever the shawl has been brought back to its location since the murder.
The shawl that could provide a DNA breakthrough in the Jack the Ripper murders. And from Weatherfield to the West End, Corrie's Daniel Brocklebank will be here to talk about his new musical. Good evening. Residents in Surrey have described hearing screaming, shouting and loud bangs coming from a flat just before police arrived to find a young woman dead and a 2-year-old girl with serious injuries. Officers were called to an address in Ashford shortly after 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, following reports of concern for the occupant's safety. A man in his 30s has been arrested on suspicion of murder and attempted murder. From Ashford, Helen Keenan has more.
Sounds of screams and shouts, then chaos. That is how neighbours have described the moments before police arrived to these flats in Ashford.
Is it safe in there? There's no dangerous people?
We've got the relevant people detained that we need to.
Where a woman in her 20s died and a 2-year-old girl was seriously injured. Hayley and Jessica live in the building and saw the police arrive. They have spoken exclusively to ITV London.
It was just a bit chaotic, no one really knew, but they were just coming in with, everyone had a bag, a first aid bag with them. Some had guns with them.
They were like, still step back, you're not going to want to see that's what's coming out. So then that's when the ambulance lady walked out with the baby in her arms, and then they brought out the man covered in blood and put him into the back of the van.
We've seen some of the relatives in the car park outside. We were allowed sort of back in about 3:30.
Yeah.
And they were out in the car park crying, screaming.
This is the man in his 30s who was arrested on suspicion of murder and attempted murder at the flats yesterday. We have blurred his face for legal reasons. He remains under arrest. Well, a cordon remains in place today at the back of the building. We understand there was a large police presence here yesterday, around 7 vehicles arriving after they got a call about a concern over safety. They found a woman seriously injured, and while paramedics did try to treat her, she died at the scene. The child was taken to hospital where she is continuing to be cared for. And we understand both of the victims and the man were known to each other. Police tell us there isn't a risk to the wider community, but some remain concerned. How are you feeling?
Well, to be honest, it's a bit of it kind of like hits home because the girl was in her 20s and I'm in my 20s and she had a 2-year-old daughter, I think it is, and I have a 9-month-old son, and it's like, that's quite scary.
Surrey police have said the investigation is in its early stages and specialist officers are working to gather as much information as possible. Their thoughts are with the family and friends of the victims. Questions over exactly what happened here still to be answered. Helen Keenan, ITV News.
Next tonight, Sir Sadiq Khan is to be investigated by City Hall's watchdog over accepting free tickets to one of Taylor Swift's concerts in Wembley last summer. Sharon Thomas is here with me now. Sharon, what exactly is the Mayor being accused of then?
Well, we all remember when the Taylor Swift juggernaut rolled into town last year, didn't we? All rhinestones and glitter and the huge clamour for tickets, some of which were being sold for thousands of pounds by unscrupulous touts. It was a different story for some, though. So the Mayor of London was invited along. He went on the 15th of August with members of his family. And you can see the shots here of he filmed himself whilst he was enjoying the gig, along with the rest of the sellout crowd of around 90,000 people. And Sir Sadiq, as he's since become, has made no secret of his delight at the fact that Taylor Swift played more gigs here in the capital than any other city here in the world on her 152-date Eras tour. But he is now being investigated after taking free tickets, so 6 free tickets, totalling £3,000 for that gig. Now, they were given to him by LS Events, a company that's once been a contractor with City Hall. Now, his critics say that is outrageous.
People expect a different level when you're in public life, and to not declare the tickets properly, to not say how much they were actually worth, and not declare who gave them to you, that is an important issue.
Now, the GLA say they have reviewed those complaints and won't be investigating 3 out of 4 of the allegations, firstly relating to the declaration about the tickets being late, inaccurate and whether there was a live contract at the time with LS Events. But they say they will investigate to establish if the Mayor exercised an appropriate level of caution in deciding to accept those tickets. And within the last few minutes, City Hall have told us that a decision will be made in due course.
OK, Sharon, thank you. Sarah Sharif's family are seeking to appeal against the sentences they received for her murder. The 10-year-old died in August 2023 following years of abuse at the family home in Woking. Her father, Irvan Sharif, and stepmother, Binash Patul, are serving minimum terms of 40 years and 33 years respectively for her murder, while her uncle, Faisal Malik, was jailed for 16 years for causing or allowing her death. And Jimmy Mizen's killer has been recalled to prison following reports he released rap music referencing the 2008 murder of the schoolboy. The probation service said 35-year-old Jake Fari, who performs as masked drill artist 10, breached licence conditions after shamelessly boasting about his violent crime. Jimmy was 16 when he died after being attacked with a glass oven dish. The family of a man who was found dead on a Thai beach just days into a month-long holiday have said they won't give up on their search for answers. CCTV shows Regan Kelly, who's from Croydon, running towards the beach in the early hours of the morning of the 3rd of January. But the circumstances surrounding his death remain a mystery, as Olivia Guthrie reports.
Regan Kelly's family say he was a happy and loving soul. Passionate about health and fitness, the 28-year-old from Croydon had just begun an exciting month-long holiday exploring Thailand. But just a few days into his trip, Regan was found dead near the beach on the island of Phuket.
Really difficult to comprehend that my baby brother is no longer here anymore. He was such a unique individual. He was the perfect role model. You know, I'm not being biased because he's my brother. He was the perfect role model to my son.
Regan's sister Laurie and father Peter have just returned home from Thailand, spending the last 2 weeks trying to find out exactly what happened to him. CCTV shows Regan jogging through the streets of Patong in the early hours of January the 3rd. He heads towards the beach, where his body was found later that day. A Thai autopsy found he probably drowned, but most of the clothes he was wearing and his phone have disappeared, and his family say some details don't add up.
We was told by the guy who found him that he had a sock on, and there's absolutely no way, hand on heart, within our family, knowing Regan, he would have entered that sea with any item of clothing on like that. We've got that crucial bit of where Regan leaves and he gets down to the beachfront, but then it is so unknown of what happened.
The Foreign Office says it's in touch with Thai authorities about the case, but Regan's family are appealing to anyone who may have seen him or who he was with that night to come forward.
Someone out there must know something of why this happened, because this was no accident. I'm not accepting it was an accident. We're not going to stop. We're not going to give up. We need to get answers. We need to know what happened to Regan.
A second post-mortem's being carried out here in the UK on Regan's body to try and find the answers his family so desperately need. Olivia Guthrie, ITV News.
Next, it is hard to escape the cold at the moment, and for some pensioners who have lost the winter fuel payments, life is particularly tough. Labour scrapped the benefit to save money and help those most in need. But the Prime Minister's approach is getting a frosty reception from those worried about getting through the rest of winter. Here's our political correspondent, Simon Harris.
Pritpal and her husband are struggling to stay warm. Losing their £300 winter fuel allowance hit them hard. The couple can only afford to heat downstairs at their home in Hounslow. And Pritpal has had cancer, which makes the cold even harder to bear.
I wear lots of layers of clothes to keep myself warm, pair of socks, electric blanket, hot water bottle, and my heating is on as well. And my bill is very, very high. At the moment it's coming up like £200 a month.
Like many London boroughs, Tower Hamlets operates so-called warm hubs, where residents can spend part of their day and get a hot drink. This one is at Cubitt Town Library on the Isle of Dogs. But the council run by the left-of-centre Aspire party has gone further. It's offering its own £175 winter fuel payment.
Tower Hamlets is unique. We have come up with many initiatives and we are trailblazing in that area. So we are the first London council, we are the first council in the country to provide winter fuel payments to our residents.
It's costing the council almost £1 million. Around 5,000 pensioners will get the payment.
It does make a difference between having a meal and putting the heating on. This week we've had extremely cold weather. It would be very hard to be in a house all day with no heating.
The charity Age UK estimates almost 4 out of 5 elderly Londoners living close to the poverty line are affected by the government's decision to restrict the winter fuel allowance.
What our concern is that there are a lot of older people on low incomes who are going to lose the winter fuel payment, and that's what's wrong and that's what's a problem.
The government's policy has angered many Labour supporters.
The government's announced additional support for older people. They've also made sure that more older people who are eligible for the winter fuel allowance receive it, but also they've kept the triple lock, which means pensioners have record increases in their pensions, really important.
He said that it would all be hunky-dory and wonderful if we had a Labour government, a Labour mayor and Labour councils, and clearly it isn't.
Pritpal voted Labour, but is disgusted at the Prime Minister's decision.
We worked all our life. We're working class people. How can you even do this to anybody?
Since this government's been in, have they done anything that's been an advantage for our elderly? I would say no.
Pritpal and her husband have thought about moving to a more energy-efficient house, but say the government's stamp duty change has torpedoed that idea. Simon Harris, ITV News.
Still to come on the programme. From the Cobbles to the Palladium, Corrie's Daniel Brocklebank will be here to talk about his role in a new West End musical. And
I've got my full running gear on today because while you may have heard of Marathon Man, have you heard of Half Marathon Man? I'll be hopefully catching up with him in a bit.
But first, there are thousands of unsolved murders in London, some dating back not just decades, but hundreds of years. The most famous of those, the Jack the Ripper murders, a killing spree which left at least 5 women dead in the East End in 1888. Now, 137 years on from the killings, the descendants of his victims are hopeful that the truth can finally be revealed. It all comes down to a shawl found beside one of the women killed. Here's Carolyn Sim.
The case of Jack the Ripper has fascinated audiences for decades. A man who murdered at least 5 women, but whose real identity remains a mystery. But behind the intrigue about him and the streets of Whitechapel where he targeted his victims are families who still want justice.
That name, Jack the Ripper, to me is just a character. It doesn't make him out to be a real person.
From Mitre Square, where her great-great-great-grandmother's body was found, Karen Miller told me she wants a fresh inquest into the murders after DNA evidence emerged which she believes identifies the killer. Her ancestor, Catherine Eddowes, had been forced into prostitution in 1888 because she was destitute.
I can't imagine what it was like walking those streets at 1:45 in the morning. It must have been really scary. The evidence we've got now that's been pulled together, I just think, if that evidence was around then, he would have been convicted.
As you can see the blood stains.
The evidence was found on a blood-stained shawl next to Catherine's body. Russell Edwards bought the shawl at auction in 2007 and paid for it to be analysed. DNA matched that of Catherine's descendants and of a Polish barber, Aaron Kosminski, who was a suspect at the time.
What are your feelings about this man?
A sadistic killer that should really have been put away a long time before he was.
So what does it mean to you for him to be officially and formally named?
Closure for the families, which is really important. But really the end of, for me, 25 years of a very long story.
At the inquest in 1888, the coroner returned a verdict of willful murder. If a fresh inquest goes ahead, it would be the only way of confirming what happened.
Will this legal proceeding finally, once and for all, name Jack the Ripper?
Well, it essentially will, but we cannot say, yes, there will be a verdict that says this man was the killer, because the coroner cannot do that. But the way the judgment can be created would leave little room for doubt. And that's as good as you can get now. Obviously, you cannot try the man himself. He's been dead for 120 years. But there would be an ability to close off a lot of the chatter about individuals.
The families know Jack the Ripper will remain a famous name in history, but by revealing his real identity, they hope his victims won't be forgotten. Carolyn Sim, ITV News, Whitechapel.
OK, let's take a look at the sport now.
Zero Accounting Software sponsors ITV Regional Sports Report.
Jack Draper has survived a third consecutive 5-set match in the Australian Open after seeing off unseeded Australian Alexander Vukic. The British #1 from Sutton came from 2 sets to 1 down to clinch victory. He'll face former Wimbledon champ Carlos Alcaraz in the 4th round on Sunday.
I don't know what to expect from him. He's going to come out with a lot of energy, and obviously he's a special talent. Like I've said, I need to be aggressive. I need to take my chances. Against the top players, you get less and less chances to win games and sets and all these sort of things, and I need to be brave.
In the Premier League, West Ham and Crystal Palace will face off at the London Stadium tomorrow. New manager Graham Potter says he's been impressed with the response of his players since he was appointed last Thursday. The Hammers have moved 10 points clear of the relegation zone thanks to the midweek win against Fulham. Meanwhile, Arsenal are at home against Aston Villa tomorrow, fresh from their triumph over Spurs this week. The Gunners are vying for their first league title in 2 decades, but manager Mikel Arteta insists it's not a 2-horse race between them and Liverpool. And at Spurs, head coach Ange Postecoglou has defended the club's lack of activity in this month's transfer window, insisting it's working hard to bring in reinforcements for the injury-hit squad. They'll be playing away at Everton on Sunday. And in the women's game, Arsenal has announced interim manager Renee Sleggers is to stay on permanently as head coach. The 35-year-old Dutchwoman stepped up following Jonas Eidevall's departure in October and has since overseen 10 victories and 1 draw across all competitions. Well, her unbeaten run will be put to the test this Sunday as Arsenal take on Crystal Palace in the Women's Super League. Elsewhere, Tottenham host Leicester City, while Chelsea and West Ham go head-to-head. Next, the Corrie actor trading the cobbles for the West End boards. Daniel Brocklebank has starred as Vicar Billy Mayhew in Coronation Street for more than 10 years, racking up almost 1,000 episodes. Before we hear all about his new role in the musical Figaro, let's have a look at some of his most memorable moments.
If my own bishop won't accept it, then it can't be the church for me. Never dated a vicar before, so this pint's a date. Because all of this silly nonsense, Paul could do without it. The universe was a better place with Apollo Foreman in it.
Welcome to you, Daniel. We'll come to Corrie in a moment, but let's start with the new stuff. Figaro, the musical, not the opera.
Yes, it is a brand new musical. The team behind it, the creative team behind it, Ashley Janner, who has, I think, more than 60 million streams of her music online, and Will Nunziata, who is an award-winning writer and director. It's part thriller, part love story. The score is fantastic. That was the thing that really drew me into it initially, was the music. It's beautiful. We have an incredible cast. although I've not met any of them yet. I know their work. We start rehearsals this coming Monday, right. But I know their work, and so I'm surrounded by an excellent team.
You say you're drawn to the music. You're not a singer by trade, though, are you?
Well, I am a trained singer. I trained in musical theatre, although I've been working as an actor for 31 years. About 4-5 years ago, I did a show called All Star Musicals for ITV, which was a singing competition. I won that, and that was the first time people realised that I was actually a singer.
Speaking of that, let's have a listen. Here we go. I mean, who needs Hugh Jackman? I mean, why was I questioning whether you're a trained singer or not?
So that was the first time I'd sort of sung publicly, which was really lovely because I'm a pianist as well, so I play at home and sing all the time. But because people know me predominantly as an actor, it was nice to give the vocal cords a stretch.
It's interesting that you're at the Palladium for 2 dates. That's quite a big investment, quite a big risk for the West End to bring something new in for 2 dates. Is the plan then that it, might get bigger?
Yeah, I would guess so. I mean, it's classed as a concert, although it will be staged. It will be, a full-on performance. But it's just for these 2 nights, which is I'm sort of grateful of because I'm able to actually continue to be working my Corrie schedule around it because it's a relatively short gig. It's taken me massively out of my comfort zone. I've done a huge amount of theatre in the past. I've spent years with the Royal Shakespeare Company and other large theatre companies, done a lot of West End stuff. But it's always been plays as opposed to a musical. So
it's brilliant that you can do this while also staying in Weatherfield. I mean, I can't believe it's more than a decade now.
It is. It is. I can't believe it either. I know when you showed those clips, I suddenly realised how young I looked in some of them.
But I mean, the fantastic storylines that you get, and such important ones as well with the MND, that was so heartrending for so many people. I mean, it is a show that throws a lot at you.
It does. It does. And I think with the storylines that we have, like the MND one, obviously we are an entertainment programme, but obviously we have the capacity to be able to educate people as well. My grandfather died of motor neurons disease. I've been working with the MND Association for the last 22, 23 years as an ambassador. So it was strangely poignant to be playing such a personal story so publicly.
Yes. So important. Good luck with the shows, 3rd and 4th of February.
3rd and 4th of February
at the Palladium. I mean, enjoy rehearsals on Monday. Thank you so much, Daniel. Take care.
Thank you.
OK, let's have a look at the weekend weather forecast now. Here is Chris with the details.
A heavy downpour will subside and light relaxation will set in. TUI sponsors ITV London weekend weather.
Hello there. Very good evening to you. Yes, today seen quite a bit of cloud across much of the capital. Cloudy skies a bit like this, and there has been a little bit of brightness here and there, although for most of us today it's been rather dull. And as we look towards the weekend, it stays on the cloudy side. There could be some pockets of mist and fog as we go through the weekend, which will continue to make it feel rather chilly, and we hold on to something turning colder, I should say, as we go through the weekend too. And that's because high pressure just to the east of the UK at the moment. As the winds circulate around that area of high pressure in a clockwise fashion, they bring up this cold air that's been over parts of France and near the continent. So temperatures actually sliding away as we go through the weekend, and it will feel rather chilly. We do still have some of the cloud as we go through the rest of this evening and overnight. There will be some breaks developing in the cloud, but for most of us, the cloud cover just preventing temperatures dropping just that little bit below freezing. So they'll be hovering around zero. The lows overnight tonight around 1 or 2 degrees. But we start tomorrow morning on Saturday. Yes, another cold start today. A lot of cloud cover around, but I'm hopeful that as we start to pull in the drier air from the continent, it will break up some of the cloud into the afternoon. So a little bit more brightness tomorrow compared to today, but it should stay largely dry, but still on the chilly side. Highs just around 3 or 4 degrees Celsius. Then as we leave Saturday and go into Sunday, the area of high pressure still just about with us, pulling in the colder air from northern France, and there will be a little bit more brightness for developing into the afternoon on Sunday too. But for the weekend, it does stay fairly quiet. A few bright spells here and there, but into next week, it could turn unsettled. Take care.
TUI sponsors ITV London weekend weather.
Finally this evening, whatever your New Year resolution, it's hard to match the challenge Ian Collier has set himself. The cricket fan wants to help rebuild a pavilion in Hertfordshire destroyed by fire. But it won't be easy. To raise the money, Ian has to run a half marathon every week for the entire year. Can he do it? Sally tried to catch up with him to find out.
Here we are, beautiful Bushy Park. You're going to be sick of Bushy Park, aren't you, in a bit?
Yeah, I'll be doing a bit of running around here.
As New Year resolutions go, this one is nothing short of nuts.
So before you get running, do we do any stretches?
No, I don't tend to stretch, only because I find that I get injured if I stretch. And doing half marathons is pretty much just running in a straight line. So.
But not one half marathon, 50, at the age of 50, to raise £50,000 for his beloved cricket club.
Oh, I'm not going to lie to you, it's slightly warmer than I anticipated. I've got a lot of clothes on. I should be like you.
But there is a very good reason why he's doing it, and it's this. 18 months ago, fire totally destroyed the pavilion of Hampton Wick Royal Cricket Club.
When you saw it for the first time, what was your reaction?
I'm devastated, yeah. I think, there were a few tears shed by a huge number of the members.
The damage hasn't just affected the cricket club, but many in the community.
We've got football clubs using the place, we've got a rugby club that plays there, schools come and use it, so it really is...
The chairman, Sam, says they need to raise hundreds of thousands of pounds beyond the insurance, and they're bowled over by Ian's efforts.
When I saw that he was going to do this, for about 10 seconds I thought, what a madman, absolutely no chance. And then, of course, I remembered it was Ian, and he will do anything for anyone.
Ian's had a good innings so far, with 2 runs under his belt.
And what are you going to think about on all these runs?
Probably December, when I'm finished, I think.
With 624 miles to go, though, he'll need to work on his rest.
And so how do you recover?
Lots of chocolate milk.
I wasn't expecting you to say that.
Yeah, it's good protein, bit of sugar.
Oh, lovely.
And then...
I might take up running.
And then a couple of beers.
Oh, lovely.
As a cricketer, Ian is used to runs, just not quite this long. But hopefully he'll be hitting 50 in his stride. Sally Williams, ITV News, Hampton Wick.
Ian and Sally were dressed for different events, weren't they? That is it from us. The evening news is next with Charlene. But from all of us in London, have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.